Hello, this is Gary Toniquette from MoreThanASnapshot.com. I'd like to welcome you to my Lightroom class. This class covers Lightroom pretty much most versions, basically version 4, 5, and 6. You'll see that some lessons may be version 4 and 5, and that's only because those lessons are based on functions in Lightroom that really haven't changed over these versions. The newest lessons and the newest functions are all up to date with Lightroom version 6 or CC. So you'll get to see everything right up to the current version. So I would take your time and go through the lessons, practice them, and see how they go. And you can go through them in order, one at a time, or you can jump right to the important parts that you're interested in learning. So I hope this helps you with your photography, and please leave me a comment anytime you have any suggestions for a new lesson that you'd like to see. Again, thanks. This has been Gary Toniquette from MoreThanASnapshot.com. Hello, this is Gary Toniquette from MoreThanASnapshot.com. Today we're going to have another Lightroom tip, and the tip will be about how to import your photos. So the first step will be we're going to come over to the File menu, and we're going to come down to Import Photos and Video. When you do that, you should get this pop-up, and it should automatically find your card reader. If it doesn't, you have to look through the sources and choose what source you're going to get your images from. Next, in this dialog box, we're going to pick the pictures we want. So here I had some older pictures on this card. I am going to deselect these, and I'll make sure that the new pictures that I do want are selected. Okay, once I've picked my photos, I can come over to this side. First we'll look at the top. You first have to tell it what you want the program to do. First, we're going to copy these as a DNG. So they're already raw files, but we're going to convert them over to the Adobe DNG. If I didn't want to do that, I could just copy them just as they are. And then we're going to send them over to my hard drive. And so that part is all okay. Then we'll go through the options as we go down. With minimal previews, that's the little pictures that you're seeing here. You could see larger ones if you wanted to. I always check don't import suspected duplicates because I don't need to have the files in there twice. If you wanted to, if you had another hard drive that you wanted to have a backup copy, you could automatically have the backup copy made as they're being imported. And then we come down here to file naming. It gives you a template for making a file name. So you could make a custom name, or you could make a date in a file name, any option that you want. I give it a shoot name and a file number, but you choose however you want to do that. And then all you do is give it a name. So I'll just call these files Route 169, which is the road that I captured them on. And we don't need to change the extension. They're going to be DNG files. If you have camera develop settings already made in Lightroom, you could select them here, and these develop settings would be applied to the photos as they're being imported. I've created one that's called Camera Standard that puts in the most common settings that I usually put in on most photos. It kind of gives me a starting point for my editing, and it speeds up that whole process. And then you can create some custom metadata if you want. Like mine might include my name and things like that. And then you can type in some keywords. So this was taken on Route 169, and maybe there's this houses here, flowers, and so on. Then do I want it into a subfolder in my hard drive? Yeah, I'm going to put it in the Route 169 subfolder. And then as we come down, it shows you the hard drive you're going to put it in. And it shows you the folder that it's going to put it in, which is right here. And then if you think all that is ready, you could hit import. But if you like the settings that you've chosen and you think you're going to use them a lot, you can actually create a preset here. And you can use this preset over and over again. So you could say save current settings as a new preset. And then instead of having to go through all of those steps, you could just click on, what I do is I have an F drive preset, which is what I've been using. And it would set most of that stuff for me. And then I just need to make small changes like putting in the shoot name, which I have to redo it now. And maybe a couple of the keywords. And back here to the folder. And now everything is set back the way I had it. And then when I'm done, all I have to do is hit import, and it will bring all of those photos in. And that's the end of the process. Once you have the photos in, you can organize them in the library and fix them in the develop module. Hope this tip was helpful. This has been Gary D. Tonnencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. Hi, this is Gary D. Tonnencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. In this lesson, I wanted you to see how you can customize the library module for different amounts of information that you can get to come up on your pictures. So here you can see if you have the toolbar open. If you don't, you can hit the letter T. That can either put away or take out your toolbar. You have the grid view, which you can get to by hitting the letter G. Or you have your Loupe view, which you can get to by hitting the letter E on your keyboard. And when you're in any of these modes, there's different amounts of information that we can get to come up. For example, just putting your pointer over the picture will give you some information like the file name, the date, the time, and the file size. But we can also have that information pop up on the top of the image. So when I'm in grid view, if I hit the letter J, it brings up this file number. And if I hit J again, it brings up that information about the shoot name, the size, and the file type. And if I go over to the Loupe view, I get the same information, and I can change that by hitting the letter I. And as I hit the letter I, it toggles through different amounts of information. Now, if you want to be able to customize any of this information, all you have to do is come up to View and come down to View Options, or Control J on your keyboard. So you have a tab for the grid view and you have a tab for the Loupe view. And when you're in this tab, if you check this little box, it will show you a preview of what's happening. You can see that we are on expanded cells right now, but if we were to click the other one, compact cells, it puts away that information. But we want to see expanded cells because we're working with that extra information. And then we'd come down here to where it has extended cells, and it has what kind of information we're going to display. So if I wanted to change crop dimensions to something else, I can click this down arrow, and I can change it to any one of these things. Maybe I would like to know something other, like maybe I would like to know the ISO speed. And I've seen a cool tip where you can actually have Lightroom customize the noise reduction settings for a certain camera by using this ISO rating. But that's a more involved tutorial. So anyway, you'll see that since I picked ISO rating, it shows up here in this bar. And if I come to Loupe view, I get the same sort of thing. I can check this box, except there are two different types of info here. Info 1 gives me this information, and Info 2 gives me this information. And on either one of them, I can change what information shows up here. Okay, so again, for Info 1, if I didn't want crop dimension, I could change that to ISO. And if I wanted this to be different, I could change that too. And if I decide I don't like the changes that I made, all I have to do is hit Use Defaults, and it sets everything back to the way it was before. So this is just a nice way of customizing the information to come out the way you want to see it. So I hope that helps, and this has been Gary D. Tonencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. Hello, this is Gary D. Tonencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about how you can review your images and pick the ones you like and get rid of the ones you don't like pretty easily. So one of the first tips I'll give you is a shortcut. If you hit the Shift and Tab key together, just like this, we can get rid of all of our side panels. And then if I double click on an image, I can have that image all by itself. And then if I don't like this gray background, I can hit the L key for the lights, and that sort of makes it a little darker, a little grayer. And if I hit the L again, it makes it completely black. And then I can just look at my image, decide if I like it or not. If I like it, I can hit the P for pick, or I can hit an X for a reject. And then I can just use my arrow keys to quickly go through the files, marking them as I like them, I don't like them. And it's very simple, very fast. Now, when I'm done, all I have to do is hit the L to bring the lights back on, and then Shift and Tab to bring all my panels back. Next, I might want to get rid of all the ones that I thought were not very good. So all I have to do is hit Photo, and then delete rejected photos. I click on that, and it will automatically look for all the rejects and delete them. And you can see here it's going to get rid of those. Well, now that I've gone through all of my picks, I can now narrow it down to even make less work for myself when it comes time to edit them. So I want to focus all of my editing time on just the best images. So I would just click this little flag to just show me all of my photos that are picks. And then I might go through them one more time and see which ones I like the best and give them a star rating. The ones I really like, I might give a 4 or a 5. The ones that are a little bit less, I might give a 2 or a 3. And then I can always narrow down the images to just the best shots that I thought I had by clicking on the 4 or 5 stars. So if I click on 4 stars, now it's only showing me images that are rated 4 stars or higher. And that gives me much fewer images to edit than I had originally. And it will save me a lot of time and give me just the best output. So try these tips and be sure and visit us at morethanasnapshot.com. Hi, this is Gary D. Tonencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. One of my viewers had asked a question about Lightroom, and it was about stacking. So whenever you make a copy of a photo, or if you capture a frame from a video in Lightroom, sometimes it will stack your photos on top of each other. And the question was, how do I unstack the photos? So I'm going to show you here. I'm going to take a frame. So here I have a video file, and I'm going to capture a frame, and you will see that it automatically puts one of two, because now here is 202. So this is the video file, and this other one is the image that I just captured. So right now they are unstacked, but apparently the problem he's having is that the photos are stacked like this, and he can't seem to unstack them. So if your photos are stacked, you should see that there's a little number on your file. So the simplest way to unstack them is to click on that number, and you'll see that it separates them out. Here's the video again, and here is the picture file. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is if I click them to restack them together. Okay, they restack together. Now if I right click on this image and I go to stacking and then to expand stack, that does the same thing. But I think it's a little bit easier just to click on the number, and that's how you can expand or collapse a stack. Also, since we're talking about stacking, if you wanted to, you can select photos. Let's say I select these two photos and right click on it and then go to stacking, and then I can say group into a stack. So you can create stacks anytime you want, and then again, to separate them, you just click on the number and it'll tell you 1 of 1 or 2 of 2 or whatever the case may be. So give stacking a try. It can be helpful for organizing things in the library module of Lightroom. Again, this has been Gary Tonicourt from morethanasnapshot.com.
Hello, this is Gary Tonicourt from morethanasnapshot.com. Today we're looking at the Navigator window, and in the library module you can use it to zoom in to different levels. So if I hit 1 to 1, you can see it zooms in real close. Or if I hit fill, it fills the area on the screen. Or if I hit fit, it shows the image in the window the correct size. There are also plenty of other options for sizes, and the little box here shows you what size you're at, what area. You can move this up or down and it shows you on your picture where you are. And different amounts of zoom. Okay. And I'll pick one that's probably more useful. Alright, and the other useful thing about the Navigator window is that every time you roll over something, it will show you a preview of what's in that folder. Plus, when you're in the other modules, it will also show you a preview. Let me go over here to develop. Yeah, every time I roll over a preset, it shows me in that pane what it's going to look like. And that also works on many other modules, like the print module. You can see that the 4x6, the 5x7, 8x10, it shows me that little preview here. So I hope that the Navigator window will be useful to you and that you can use it from now on. Hello, this is Gary Tonicourt from morethanasnapshot.com. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the catalog in Lightroom. The way Lightroom works is that it creates a catalog, which is like a database of all of your images. In that database, it stores a preview of your image, and it stores a little text file that has all the data about how your image gets processed. Then it creates a link from this preview of the image to your actual image that's stored on your hard drive. And so it is possible to work with your image previews without actually being connected to your actual images. For example, if you had an external hard drive. So in this catalog section, it shows you, first of all of the photographs that are in this database. And so right now I have over 46,000 images in this database. You can keep adding as many photos as you want. It's not going to cause a problem if you have lots and lots of images. As you can see, I have quite a few here. When you're on all photographs, you can scroll through all the photographs, or you could even use some of these options at the top to find your images even quicker. For example, if I click on text, I can search, in this case, for the keyword pinup, and have keyworded pinup, and then it finds them for me, and it makes it a little easier to locate files when you can search by keyword. Another thing in this section is if you have put any images into a quick collection, this shows you what images are in a quick collection. The next one is called Previous Import, and that one shows you the last set of images that you imported into your computer, or actually into Lightroom. This is useful because you can see what you brought into the computer last, but It could cause a problem every now and then because after you import your images, it automatically leaves you on this folder. And if you end up going to another program like sending one of the images to Photoshop and then saving it back as a TIFF, it may be hard to find that TIFF file. And the reason is because you're not on the actual folder where you put the picture. You're on this previous import. So the solution for finding the missing photo is to actually go and make sure you're on the actual folder where the images are located. And the next one is added by previous export. So after you finish correcting a set of images and you export them as a JPEG or whatever file format you're going to export them as, you can have Lightroom automatically add these new files back to your catalog. And so if you want to see what files, the Lightroom did that to, you can just click on this and it shows you what files were added back to your catalog. And that's the basics of the catalog section. Hello, this is Gary D. Tonencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. We're in the library module for another lesson. On the left side, we'll find the folders area. And this area is important for helping you to find the images that you've imported into Lightroom. In this section, you will see all of the hard drives that are in use by Lightroom, and it gives you some information here like how much free space. For example, in this hard drive I have 706 gigabytes free out of 918 gigabytes, and it also shows me the folders that are in that drive. Here you can see I have a second drive and how much space is available in that one. Now these drives and these folders act a lot like and pretty much are the same as what you have in your either Windows Explorer or on the Mac, the Finder. So we'll be looking at a little bit of a comparison of these folders and how you should work with them. So first I will open up my Windows Explorer. And you can see here that I'm in the D drive in a folder called Old Car. And I'm looking at this because I can see that in my folder structure in Lightroom, I have a folder called Old Car, but there's a question mark, meaning that Lightroom has lost the connection to these files. Something went wrong where Lightroom no longer knows where these files are. So if this problem ever occurs, let me explain to you what's going on here. You can work with Windows Explorer and you can copy pictures from one place to another, or you can rename folders, all these kinds of things, and that's fine. But you have to remember that if you already have these pictures in Lightroom, any of these changes that you make in your Windows Explorer, Lightroom is not going to know about them, and Lightroom is going to lose track of where your images go. So that's why this Old Car folder is showing missing images. And so if I go and look at where this folder was pointing to, you can see that it says Emily Photo Shoot Edited Videos / Old Car. And when I compare that to my folder, I just have Old Car. So if I want those photos to show back up in Lightroom, I have to correct that. So I can right click on this folder and I could have the computer look for the missing files. I click Find Missing Files, or I can manually go and find the missing files myself. So I'm going to switch to the D drive because that's where the files were, and they were in a folder called Old Car. And so I'll go there, and that should be good enough. If I select that folder, now Lightroom should be able to refine those images, and you can see here that they're coming in. And you can see these are reconnected. I don't know if it's still working on those or if I have to go and find those. But at least the Old Car files that I was talking about have been reconnected. All right. So one way to avoid this kind of a problem is to not make changes in your Finder or in your Windows Explorer when you're moving photos around or renaming folders and all that kind of stuff. A better way to do it is to move them around or rename them right in Lightroom. That way, if you do the work in Lightroom, Lightroom knows what you've done and it doesn't lose track of the files. So I can show you an example of this. If I click on this folder and I copy a picture of this barn into the old car folder, I just click and drag and drop it in there. It gives you this thing. I'll say, okay, I want to move this. So it shows one less image here. And if I go to old car, here it is. Now you'll notice it doesn't have that little exclamation point because now Lightroom does know where it is because I moved it in Lightroom. Right? So that's the better way to reorganize your stuff. Another example would be if I wanted to rename a folder. If I right click on the folder name and click rename, I can type something in. And again, if I had done this in Windows Explorer, sure, it would have worked just fine, but Lightroom would have lost track of where these pictures go. Whereas doing it in Lightroom, I haven't lost anything. Lightroom keeps track of all the changes that I make. So just remember that if you've imported images already into Lightroom and you want to make changes to file names, folder names, or moving files around, you're better off doing those things right in the folder section of Lightroom, and that way Lightroom won't lose track of where all your photos have gone. I hope this tip helps, and start organizing your images. Hi, this is Garrity Tannencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. This is another lesson in the library module, and we'll be talking about collections. And there are a few different kinds of collections. The first one showed up in our catalog section. It's called a quick collection. And the quick collection is just a quick way of putting a group of images together for a project that you might be quickly trying to throw together. Now, if you click on quick collection, you can see here that I have like 8 images in this section. If I wanted to get rid of a photo in the quick collection, I can simply click on the photo and then come up here to photo, and then the first thing in the list says remove from quick collection. And it also tells me that I could press B, and that would be a keyboard shortcut to get rid of this. So if I click on that, that removed that photo from my quick collection. So there's a quick way of getting rid of them. Now I have to show you how to put them in there. I'm going to come down to somewhere in my folders section, and I'll click on a photo. And all I have to do again is go back to photo and click that top thing that says add to quick collection, or again I could have pressed B as the shortcut. So I clicked on that, and we'll scroll back up to see if it is indeed in our quick collection, and yes it is. It's right here. Okay. So anytime you want to make a quick project and you just need to throw some images together, you can do this in the library module or the develop module. All you have to do is select the image and press the letter B, and it will either add it or remove it from your quick collection. Alright, now we have some other types of collections that we can talk about. I'm going to scroll down to where the collection section is, and here it is. When we're in this collection section, I have a little plus sign here. If I click that, you can see that I can create a collection, or I can create a smart collection, or I can create a collection set. So we'll talk about what these things are. Now the first one, create a collection. If I click on that, it'll ask me to give the collection a name. And I could even put this in a collection set underneath one of these categories of collections that I already have if I wanted to. And I could have it automatically include selected photos in that collection. Or I could wait and I could go and drag and drop the photos in later. So let's say I'm going to call this one a sample. And I'll include selected photos. So I have that photo selected. It should add that photo to my collection. And I hit create. So here you can see that I have now a collection called Sample. There's one photo in it. That's the photo that was selected. Now, with a regular collection, it's manually, you can put pictures in it manually. So if I just click on some sort of a picture like this one and drag it to this collection and let go, you can see there that now it says there's 2 pictures in this collection. Now what's different about collections is just because I dragged this photo into this folder, it really hasn't made any changes into my Windows Explorer, or it hasn't made any changes to the location of where this file is. All it did was put it in a collection for me to work with it later in one convenient location. So making just a plain collection is sort of a manual way for you to add them by dragging and dropping them or by initially selecting them. Another type of collection I could make is a quick collection. So if I click the plus and come down to Create Smart Collection, now with a smart collection I can have the computer search for certain parameters to find images for me. So if I wanted to have a collection for all the images I took on November 1st, 2013, I could create a quick collection that goes by the capture date and is November 1st, 2013. And then when I click create, it will go and find all those images and put them in a collection. But capture date is not the only thing you could sort by. There's lots of other things you could sort by. You could sort by rating, flags, colors, sources of where the images are coming from, file names, file types, dates. There's a ton of different ways you could have Lightroom look for your images, even by the camera, even by the lens. And not only that, you can add more than one criteria. So I could look for images on that date, and I could say now find ones with a certain rating. So let's say a rating of 4 stars or greater. So you can get very specific about what images you want to find. Now if I create this, hopefully there'll be some 4-star images taken on that date, and we'll see what happens. Yes, it shows that there are. There's 12 of them, and they're in this November 1st folder. So now Lightroom did the searching for me and put together the collection. It didn't move any of these files. It just gave me a quick way to find them, and so that I can work with them on whatever project I might be doing. I hope this is helpful, and that you use it to make life easier finding your images.
Hello everyone, this is Gary D. Tonicourt from MoreThanASnapshot.com. Today I wanted to give you a tip about quick collections. So let's head over to Lightroom and we'll take a look. Alright, once you're in the library module, you'll notice anytime you hover over an image, there's a little gray circle in the upper right hand corner. Now if you look at the top section of the left panel, you'll see that you do have a quick collection. And if you click on that little circle, it'll automatically add that photo to the quick collection. So I can click on these 2 photos and it will add it to the quick collection. I can also select a photo and press the B key. That is the shortcut, and it does the same thing. You'll see now I have 3 photos in my quick collection. There's one further way you can customize this. If I come down to my collections, let's say I go to the Steam Train collection, I can right click on it and then click on Set Target Collection, and you'll see that it puts a little plus sign next to that collection. Now if I add a photo of this green car, it will put it in the Steam Train collection. Here it is. So it doesn't just have to go in the quick collection folder. You could make it go in any one of your folders. When you're done, you can just right click on it again and uncheck Set Target Collection. So at any time you can set any of your collection folders to be your target collection. So give that tip a try and see if it makes you more efficient with working with your library module. Again, this has been Gary D. Tonicourt from MoreThanASnapshot.com.
Hello and welcome. This is Gary D. Tonencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. In today's Lightroom lesson, we'll be focused on the library module and how to use published services. So, if you come down to the left side, you will see published services and you'll have a bunch of different choices. The ones that I typically use are Facebook or Flickr. And one of the first things that I'll show you how to do is to make a new collection. So you right click on one of the names here and you click create collection, and then I'm going to call the collection flowers, and I'm going to choose selected photos because I've already selected a photo down here, and I could give it an album name such as flowers, and privacy level I could choose anyone can see it or friends only because this is Facebook. If I want it to go into an existing album, I can choose one from the list. If I want to use an existing non-user album, you could choose it from this list. So I'm going to go with the new album up here. Then I click create, and you can see flowers shows up, and already there's that one photo that I put in that folder. Now if I wanted to add more photos to it, I'll go back up to my folder that has flower photos in it, and I click another image, and of course you could do a batch of images together by hitting Control and selecting a couple of images. In this case I think I'm only going to put in this one, and then I just click and drag it to flowers and let go. Now when I click on flowers, it shows me that I have two flower photos, and right up here at the top where it says Facebook, it has a button for publish. So if I click publish, you can see here that it will upload those two photos directly to the folder that I created in Facebook. And that's it, it's done. So here we are in my Facebook account. You can see here that it created the folder called flowers, and if I click on it, it'll take us to the two images that I uploaded. Hello, this is Gary D. Tonencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. Today we're in the library module and we're looking at some of the bars down at the bottom here. This black bar has some things for dual monitors, and this is monitor 1, and here you can check off what kind of view, loop view, grid view, compare view, you want to see your images in here. There are a lot of different ways to do this. You also have those same views right here if you have them turned on. And then this one would be for second monitor. If you had a second monitor, it would show you here what was playing on that second monitor. And same thing, you could do different views there. Then this is just another way to cycle through the different views: grid view, loop view, compare view. There's a lot of ways of doing that apparently. Now this information, however, I think is more useful. It tells you what you're on for a collection or a folder name, and then it shows you how many photos are there, how many of them are selected, and it tells you the name of the file. This can be very useful so you know what file you're on and you know what file type, whether it's a RAW file or a JPEG or a TIFF or whatever it might be. So that can be very useful information. The rest of this bar has other options like a filter. I often use the flag system when ranking my photos, the white flag for a pick and the black flag for a reject, and then of course the middle one, no flag at all. And the star rating from 1 to 5, you can click as many stars as you want for the photo that you're on, or you can simply press the number from 1 to 5 on the keyboard to give a certain photo a star rating. So you can see here this photo has a 4-star rating, And if I wanted to filter and see how many photos here had 4-star ratings, I could just click 4 stars and it would show me only well, it didn't do it. 1 second. Here we go. Click 4 stars and now it will show me only the photos that are 4 stars. So if I take that off, now I can go back and see all of the photos that are there. And then the color ratings, you can assign each group of photos a different color for whatever reason you might want to do that. I don't use those very often, but a lot of people do. And here you have other filter choices. Now this bar, what's in this bar kind of depends on what you have selected here. So I have the view modes turned on, I have the painter turned on, sorting. You could turn on any one of these things and it would show up in this gray bar. And I have the thumbnail size turned on. So I like these buttons because it's clear to me what they are. If I want to see the grid view of my photos, that's the grid view. If I want to see the loupe view, that's just a single photo. The compare, select versus candidate, and then the multi-compare, that's that one. Okay, so go back to grid view. Then there is this painter. This spray can do a lot of different things. Right now I have it set for rotation of images, but it could do anything like keywording, labeling, flagging, metadata. It can do all sorts of things. And then here there's more options. So if I have it on rotation, right now I have it set to rotate right counterclockwise, but you could change it to rotate in different directions. So once I have that picked, if I paint over an image just by clicking and dragging over them, you can see there they rotate. So for example, if I had changed it to keyword, I could use one keyword and then stamp it on any image that I wanted to, and it would get it done nice and fast. When you're done with that tool, you just click it back in the painter spot and it's gone away. You can sort your images A to Z or Z to A. That's one simple way to do it. Another one is you can sort with this, which is capture time or any of these other options. So for example, if I change it to edit time, you see the order of the images just changed. If I go back to capture time, it'll go back to the way they were before. So there's a nice sorting tool. And then the size, I can make my thumbnails larger or smaller. So I like them right there in the middle. And this other bar up at the top in grid view is very handy because it has ways of searching for your photos in different ways. First of all, if I was on the text one, I could do any searchable field. That's to do with your metadata, but you could pick a specific field like a title or a caption or a keyword. Right now it's just easier for me to leave it on any, contains all, and then I just say I'll put in a keyword like pinup. And now it'll search that collection, and there's nothing there that is labeled pinup because there's only 6 photos in that folder. So let me click on all the photographs and then do a search for pinup, and you can see here that pinup photos show up. So that's a nice way to search for your photos by keyword. Then you could go by attribute, and you have, of course, you could go by flag ratings, you could go by colors, any of those things. But you could also go by a title, a keyword, anything like that. Oh no, I'm sorry. The attribute is the whether it's a flag or a star rating or a color. And this one is photos, master photos. This one is for virtual copies, and this one is for video. Okay. Next we have the metadata. This one is kind of cool because you could sort for your photo in a lot of different ways. If I wanted to know which pictures I took with my Canon 7D, I can click on that and see which photos those are, versus which photos did I take with my 20D, versus which photos I took with my 5D. And so that's interesting. And you could even go by lens if I wanted to see, which photos I took with the 17 to 40 millimeter lens. It will narrow down the search even more. If I wanted to see which ones were taken with the 24 to 105, I get a different set of images. And yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you can sort. And then you could click None if you didn't want to sort by any filter setting. Just scrolling up here. And also you have all kinds of filter choices. Right now I have the filters turned off, but you could sort like we were by camera info, by exposure info, any one of those type of things. Let's look at exposure info. I haven't necessarily checked that one out before. Okay, you can see which photos were taken at a specific focal length. That's pretty cool. Versus you could find photos taken at a certain ISO versus what f-stop or shutter speed. So let's see. If I wanted to see all the photos I took at 12 millimeters, I can click on that and see the results from that. That's pretty interesting. It gives you a lot of options for searching. And then when I'm done with that, I can just turn my filter back off, and now I'm not searching or filtering by anything. All right. So there are some good tips for the middle and top and bottom panel, and try those out and see how they work for you. Hello, this is Gary D. Tonencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. Today we're going to be working in the library module, and we're going to look at this last strip, probably the last part of the library module videos. A few things I wanted to let you know about just anytime you're working in Lightroom. When you see the little triangles for these panels, when you click on them, if you don't want to see that panel, you can close it up by clicking on it so the triangle goes sideways. And if you do want to see what's in a panel, you just click on it and it will open it up. So this can save you some space on the sides. If there are things that you don't use, you can leave them closed up. Also on the sides, you have, and on the bottom too, you have the little triangle here. So if I click that, it puts the panel away. If I want it back, I can either move my mouse over and it'll automatically pop out, or I can click it and then it will lock it in and it will stay out. That works on the bottom and on the left side as well. Now, starting on this side, the first thing we see is the histogram. So this can be pretty useful for any photo that we have. We can see how the exposure went for the photo that we took. And we can see the EXIF data that the camera recorded when we took the photo, some of it anyway. Things like the ISO, the focal length, the f-stop, and the shutter speed. This one also tells us this is an original photo. With Lightroom 5, you could click here and tell it to make a smart preview instead. And this would be useful for people who maybe are working with an external drive and you have your images stored on that external drive. If you make a smart preview, you can actually work on the preview without actually having the drive connected to Lightroom. So that's an option for you there. As we come down, there is a quick develop section. I don't use this section too often because you're better off doing your develop work in the develop section. However, if you need to make a quick adjustment, there are some things here that could be helpful. This area is actually most helpful for videos because videos can't be developed normally in the develop module, but they can be adjusted here. So I find this area to be useful for video. Lightroom 5 does now do video. Alright, so let's start at the top here and look at what we have. The first thing says presets. So if I click here, it actually shows me all the presets that I have in my develop area. So I could apply a preset to a photo before I even get it into the develop area. This is not something I typically do either. I would typically do that in the develop area, but one place this does come in handy is that I make a general preset that I call camera standard, where I try to put in all of my most common developed settings that I don't usually change too much. And that way, when I do an import, I can have it apply those settings to my photos as they're being imported, and it just gives me a little bit less work to do when I get into the develop area. Okay, the next thing is white balance. Again, this is something I would handle in the develop area, but you do have the option of making some changes here if you wanted to. And then same thing for exposure. You could try auto and see if it does a good job. I prefer to do it myself when we get into the develop area. If you did need to make a small adjustment to exposure or any of the other things related to exposure, the inside buttons will make a third of a stop adjustment. So this side will increase the exposure by a third of a stop, whereas this side will decrease it by a third of a stop. Whereas the outer buttons will make a larger increase or decrease. This would go by one stop. And you have all the same things as you have in the develop module. You have highlights, shadows, whites and blacks and all that stuff. I just find that it's much more precise to do it in the develop module. Also, the way that it applies the information to a series of photos is different, and that's very confusing to explain, so I'm not going to do that right now. Next, we have keywording. Now, in the library module, I think keywording is super important because this is how you will find your photos later on. So all you have to do is just click in here, put a comma, and type in a keyword, and then you'll be able to search by that keyword later on. Another way you could do it is to click on keywords that you commonly have used in the past. Lightroom stores them here for you, so if you wanted to use that keyword, you can just click on it, and it should have added that. Yes, it did right here. It added that to my list. Also, they give you keyword sets so that if you do certain things repetitively, there are certain keywords that go well with them. So, for example, I have a set for wedding photography, so that if I ever shoot a wedding, I can just come in here and click a few words that relate to the image, and I don't have to type them in. The next one is a list of keywords that you've used before. So this is kind of cool because it knows every keyword you've used before, and it tells you how many photos are there of that type. So let's see, we'll show you one. Okay, so let's say I wanted to see what photos of boats that I've taken. I can click on the word boat, and it says there's 170 of those photos. If I click on that arrow, it will sort and bring up any photos I've taken of boats. Right now it's not showing me the previews because one of my external drives is turned off, but eventually we should hit some that are turned on. Let's see. Nope, these are all on another drive, I guess. Let me go way down. Well, that figures. I picked one where all the photos were on a different drive. Okay. But you get the idea. That's how you can see the photos that were taken with a certain drive. Let's try a different one just for the heck of it, see if it'll come up. Okay, Booth Bay Harbor. So now I can see all the photos I took when I was there. There are 413 of those. So that's a nice way to search by keyword. And then if I come all the way down past the keyword section, the next thing that comes up is the metadata. And there's different types of metadata. EXIF is probably the one that you'd most often want to see. I leave the EXIF and IPTC on, and I'll show you what those are as we go down. So the first thing is that it shows you your file name, shows you your file size, what type of file it is, lots of useful information, what date and time you took the photo. If it has a rating or a label or a title, you can type right into these fields and add this stuff. And then the EXIF data is very useful so that you can see how the photo was taken in case you thought you made any mistakes. You wanted to see what went wrong. Here it tells me this photo was taken in aperture priority. It tells me that it was shot at 1/800th of a second at f4, and that there was no exposure compensation used, and that there was no flash used. It even tells me what ISO I used, what focal length, what lens, again the date and the time. It gives you lots of information about how the photo was taken, what camera. And it gives you a place where you can put in information, like if you want to have your name embedded in the file, you can do that. Also, if you have a GPS and you're recording GPS coordinates, you can either automatically have it put in, or you can copy and paste the GPS data right into here so that it will later show up in the map module automatically if you have it, if you put the GPS data in here. The next section, more contact information. You could put all kinds of information in the JPEG file so people would know that that's your file. You could even put your website information. Just tons more spaces that you could fill in of what information you want to put in there. And that's really it. It's just the metadata is just a place where you can type in or look at information that's stored in your picture file, and it really can give you a lot of information. Now this last section called comments, this has to do with the published services. So if you don't use the published services, which was over here, you probably don't need the comments. Turn that off for a second. So on this side, if I come down and look at published services, you can see that I have Facebook and I have Flickr, and I can use Lightroom to upload photos directly to them. Now when it uploads photos, after it's done, it also downloads comments. So if people have commented on your photos in Flickr or Facebook, those comments would show up right here. I guess it gives you one, area where you can go to look at your comments. I don't really use it. I just would go and look at my comments either on Facebook or Flickr. But anyway, that option is there for you. And then if you had metadata embedded in a file and you wanted to apply it to a whole series of files, you could first click on the file that has the data that you want to apply to the other files, and then you just select the range of files. So in this case, if I wanted this group of files, I could hold down Shift and then click on that image. Then all I have to do is click Sync Metadata, and it will take all this metadata and it will apply it to all of those different images. And there are sync settings here. If there were certain fields you wanted to turn on and turn off, that's what that should do. So let's see if we can look at it. If I click Sync Settings, yes, I can say which options do you want to have synced. All right, and that's the end of the library module. Hi, this is Gary DeTonicourt from morethanasnapshot.com. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can export an image. Remember, in Lightroom, there is no saving. Everything you do to the image is automatically saved in a little text file that stays with the raw file that you have there, or your JPEG file. But when you're finally done, you will want to export it, probably as some other file type like a JPEG or maybe even a TIFF. And to do that, all you have to do is come up to File, Export, and then you'll be given a series of options. First, where in your computer do you want to put the files? Do you want to add a subfolder? So I like to choose the folder later, so when you go to export it, at that point, that's when the computer will ask you where you want to save it. And that's especially good if you plan on making a preset. And I'll show you how to do that too. So I'm going to choose the folder later. That way I don't need to make a subfolder, because I can make the subfolder when I choose this later. As far as resizing, this is going to depend on what you want to do with the file. If you want a backup copy of your file, You probably would want it at full size, and then you don't have to do anything here. You would just leave it alone and it will export it at the full size that the file will be. If you were making it for the web, then you may want to resize it to make it smaller. So here you have some options about how you want the dimensions to go. For example, if I wanted to base this on the long edge of the image, I could say make sure that the long edge is not bigger than 1024. And then the resolution 300, if you were going to make it for print, 300 would be good, but for the web we only need 72. And so this will make a file that is on the longest side, no bigger than 1024, and then have a resolution of 72 ppi. We're going to sharpen for, if it's going to be for the web, I would sharpen for the screen, but if it's going to be for a print, I would choose either matte or glossy paper. And then the amount of sharpening, low, medium, or high. Standard usually works fine. Usually with smaller images, you can use a lower amount of sharpening. Online, you can have a lower amount of sharpening. For larger images that you plan to print, that's probably when you'd want to go with a higher amount of sharpening. Export metadata. If you're going to put this image online, you have to decide whether you want the metadata to be with it. If you check this little box, it will remove the location information if for some reason you don't want people online to see where this image is coming from. Watermark, that's a whole separate issue, but if you were just exporting an issue, we would not need to turn that on. And then what to do after, you have choices of what to do after, like maybe do nothing, or you could have it open it in Photoshop, or you could have it show it in Explorer or some other application. I like to have it show it in Explorer because then I can see it right in my computer and I know where it went and what's happening to it. So as I went through all of these options, let me see what I chose here just to make sure. I chose to rename it, to resize it. So if I wanted to make a preset for this, right over here, I can click the Add button, and I'll call this web-sized image. And it's going to be put under the user presets, which are right here. And I'll say create. So basically what that did is it just took a snapshot of everything I just told it here and saved it as a preset. So next time I don't have to go through all of these steps. I can just click web-sized image, and I have one already for a standard export. And then when you actually export the image, the first thing it's going to do is open up your folder system in your computer to ask you where do you want to put it. So you would choose a folder, and if you wanted to create a subfolder, here's now where you could hit new folder. You give it a folder name like sunset. Double click in that folder, and then it will save your pictures in this folder that you just created with this path. So if I select that folder, it's going to now export that file as a web-sized file to that location, and then it opens up in Explorer, and I can see here that's the file that Lightroom made for me. Alright. So if I come back to that for a second, if I click web-sized image, now it will be ready to do that for any number of images that I select down here. But let's say I wanted to make some sort of a change to this preset. Maybe I want it to be a JPEG, but I want more compression on it. So I'll say 75 instead of 100. Maybe I want the long edge to be 768 instead of 1024. So I made a couple of little adjustments to my preset, and then all I should have to do is right click on this and say update with current settings, and it will update the preset that I just made with whatever changes I just made here. So now I have an updated preset for exporting to the web. And that's really it. You just got to know what you want right from the beginning. Are you going to export for print, or are you going to export for the web? And that really mainly affects what quality and what size and how you're going to sharpen it. All right then. Give that a try and see how it works for you. Hi, in this tutorial we're going to talk about making a watermark on a photo that you export from Lightroom 4. So the first step would be to make your logo and to have it be on a transparent background. You could do this as a PNG file. And once that's made, all you have to do is select a photo and then go to File, Export, and then you would choose all the regular options you would choose for exporting a photo for the web. And the main area that we need to worry about is this part right here that talks about watermarking. And you click this down arrow and you click Edit Watermarks, and it gives you this little pop-up. So I would go here and choose my logo, and it puts it in. Now down here we have some more options. You can choose to fit it to the screen where it makes it large and fit it all the way across. You could choose to fill it where it makes it really large and fills the entire area. Or we can make it proportional, which I think makes the most sense for adding it to all of your images. And here I chose 31%, but you could choose larger. And then a little lower, you can even adjust these sliders to move it left and right, or this slider to move it up or down. And these little boxes make it real handy to move it into different locations: top right, top left, center, bottom right. And this one will make this one say bottom right. And then when you think you've got it all right, you just click Save as a preset and you give it a name. I'll call this one GCC Light and Bottom Right. And then just say Create Preset, and then we can export the picture. We have to tell it where to put the picture when it exports it. So Pictures, and select that folder. It will overwrite that file and export the picture. And there it is. And if we look at it a little bit larger, we can see that it added the little watermark right there to our picture. Hello, this is Garrity Tonencourt from morethanasnapshot.com. In today's lesson we're going to talk about the catalog in Lightroom. The way Lightroom works is that it creates a catalog which is like a database of all of your images. In that database, it stores a preview of your image, and it stores a little text file that has all the data about how your image gets processed. Then it creates a link from this preview of the image to your actual image that's stored on your hard drive. And so it is possible to work with your image previews without actually being connected to your actual images. For example, if you had an external hard drive. So in this catalog section, it shows you, first of all of the photographs that are in this database. And so right now I have over 46,000 images in this database. You can keep adding as many photos as you want. It's not going to cause a problem if you have lots and lots of images. As you can see, I have quite a few here. When you're on all photographs, you can scroll through all the photographs, or you could even use some of these options at the top to find your images even quicker. For example, if I click on text, I can search, in this case, for the keyword pinup, and have keyworded pinup, and then it finds them for me, and it makes it a little easier to locate files when you can search by keyword. Another thing in this section is if you have put any images into a quick collection, this shows you what images are in a quick collection. The next one is called Previous Import, and that one shows you the last set of images that you imported into your computer, or actually into Lightroom. This is useful because you can see what you brought into the computer last, but it could cause a problem every now and then, because after you import your images, it automatically leaves you on this folder. And if you end up going to another program, like sending one of the images to Photoshop and then saving it back as a TIFF, it may be hard to find that TIFF file. And the reason is because you're not on the actual folder where you put the picture. You're on this previous import. So the solution for finding the missing photo is to actually go and make sure you're on the actual folder where the images are located. And the next one is added by previous export. So after you finish correcting a set of images and you export them as a JPEG or whatever file format you're going to export them as, you can have Lightroom automatically add these new files back to your catalog. And so if you want to see what files the Lightroom did that to, you can just click on this and it shows you what files were added back to your catalog. And that's the basics of the catalog section.
In this video, we're going to look at how to export a video. So here I have a video in my library module, and to export it from Lightroom, you go to File, Export, just as you would for a picture. And then you would go through all the typical settings, but when you get down to this one that says Video, you have to click Include Video, and then you got to click the file format that you want. So H.264 would probably be the one you would most commonly pick, and then you pick what quality you want it to be. So I want H.264 maximum quality. Here it says the dimensions and the speed of the film. And then that's it. That should be all the important options anyway. That's the video option, and then when it's done, it'll show it in Explorer. Also, to make this useful for the next time, I can create a preset, an export preset, and I can call it Video Export. And so that the next time I want to export a video, it's already ready to go with those settings. And it's going to choose a folder after. Okay, so when I hit export, it's going to ask me where do I want to put this video. I'll just say in this folder, and then select that folder, and it'll start exporting the video. It's very simple. When it's done, it'll pop up in my Internet Explorer and show me where the video is. So I hope that was helpful. Give it a try. In this lesson, we're going to talk about backing up the Lightroom catalog. You want to do this so that you don't lose any information in the way your images are stored and the data and the changes that you make to your images. So all I have to do is go to Edit, Catalog Settings, and then here it talks about the backup. It asks you how frequently do you want to back up. Right now I have it set to once a week, but I want to make sure it comes up when I exit the program, so I'm going to change it to every time Lightroom exits for this tutorial, and I'll say OK. So anytime I exit Lightroom now, I should get this pop-up asking me to back up the Lightroom catalog. And you should back up your catalog to a disk drive that's different than your catalog is actually on. So I have my catalog that I'm using on the C drive, and so it's going to back up this catalog to the D drive, to a Lightroom backup folder. It can have it test the integrity of the backup. It can optimize for the backup. You can leave all of those things. If you need to change your folder, you hit choose and pick a different folder. But this is where I'm going to have it do it. So all I have to do is hit backup, and it'll save everything in this catalog in case something ever happens to it. It could get corrupted, and then I'll have an option for bringing it back. Just remember where you backed it up to. And that's really all there is to backing up. It's an important thing to do. I would say once a week is plenty, and give that a try.
Alright, I'm just beginning to work with Lightroom 4. I just installed it and I made a few tweaks, so I wanted to show you some beginning things you can do with Lightroom 4. First of all, I had to import my photos. I did have Lightroom 3 and I could have updated the Lightroom 3 catalog to Lightroom 4, but I chose not to do that because I still do have Lightroom 3 on this computer. So instead I created a brand new catalog that was made for Lightroom 4, gave it its own unique name, and imported all of my files. So I'm starting fresh with a new Lightroom 4 catalog, and I now have all of my files in there. So now I'm ready to go with that aspect. The other thing with the catalogs is if I ever lose my catalog, or if there's ever some sort of a corruption or error in my catalog, I don't want to lose all of my keywords and all of my structure. So I like to go under Edit and Catalog Settings, and I turn on or add a check mark to this little box that says Automatically Write Changes to the XMP file, so that all the data like keywords that I put into Lightroom stays with every file. So if I do lose my catalog, I won't lose all of my keywords. That happened to me once before, and I find this to be a time-saving step. So you just check that little box, click OK, and you're ready to move on to the next step. The other thing I like to do is to customize the top, have the look of Lightroom be a little more suited to my business. So I added my logo up at the top here, and I changed the colors and the size of the font of the different tabs in Lightroom. To do this is very simple. The first step would be to prepare a logo to go here. You need to make a logo that has a transparent background, one that will look good on black, and then you need to resize it so that it's 57 pixels high or no larger than 57, and then the width can vary. I made this one about 350 pixels wide, and then to add it to Lightroom, all you do is go to Edit, Identity Plate, and then right here you click Locate File, you choose the file that is the right size, and then you click Open. And when you've done that, it's going to put the file here, and when you say OK, it will make sure that it's updated up here. Now, I also wanted the tabs up at the top to be larger and to have a specific font and to have some colors that were similar to my logo colors. So to do this, first you click this down arrow and you have a whole bunch of font choices, and pick one that you like. And then I changed the font size and made it a little larger, a little easier to read. And then I picked a color for the highlighted tab that we're on. So that's this color. You just click on it and choose a color. And you could also choose a different color for the tabs that are not being used. I chose to leave them gray at this point. And that's really it. You say OK, and the top bar of Lightroom 4 is all customized and ready to go. So that's some of the simple customization that I do to get started, and in future videos we'll look more at working with the details of Lightroom 4. Thank you. This is Gary D. Tonicourt from Rhode Island Photography Workshops.